Welcome back to DPSN. I'm Dylan Oliver, and a few weeks ago I did my top 12 fantasy football running backs for this 2022 NFL season, and today I figured might as well do my top 12 wide receivers in fantasy football for the 2022 season. So to start things off on this list, at number 12 I have Panthers wide receiver DJ Moore. Now going into his 5th season, he's coming off a career high in receptions. He's got a quarterback upgrade in my personal opinion. I think Baker Mayfield is better than Sam Darnold or Cam Newton or whoever he's played with the last 4 years of his career. He's a very consistent receiver. In the last 3 years, he's finished with over 1,000 yards in all 3 of those seasons. His only downside is he doesn't score too many touchdowns. He's never scored above 4 touchdowns for the first 4 years of his NFL career. But I think with Baker Mayfield now as his quarterback, he will score more than 4 touchdowns this season and continue with the receiving yards and receptions, making his production and fantasy all around go way up, giving him the number 12 spot on my list. At number 11, I have someone who really started to show up last season, and that is Pittman Jr. I have him here because he's a clear number 1 wide receiver on his team, and last season he averaged 14 points per game with Carson Wentz throwing him the football. I think Matt Ryan is by far a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, and I think he will give him many more targets, give him many more receptions, score some more touchdowns, score some more yards, and overall have a much better season than he did last season, meaning his fantasy values will go through the roof this season with Matt Ryan now as his quarterback. So that's why I have Pittman Jr. here at my number 11 wide receiver for fantasy football this year. Then here at my number 10 spot, it's arguable, but I have Tyreek Hill. I don't love the change of quarterback from Pat Mahomes to Tua, and now he also has to compete for targets with wide receiver Jalen Waddle on this team. Overall, I don't really love the offense or situation Tyreek Hill was put in during this trade, so I think his fantasy value goes way down with Tua now as his quarterback. But then again, he is Tyreek Hill. He has elite speed. He can make a 3-yard drag route turn into a 90-yard touchdown. Right there alone would give him a lot of fantasy points for a week. But I just overall don't think he's going to be as great, of course, as he was last couple seasons with Mahomes. But I still think he'll be good, which is why I have him here at number 10. At number 9, I have a very consistent receiver. He has a very, very high floor, but I don't want to say low ceiling, but you basically know what you're going to get with him. It's Keenan Allen. Last season, he averaged 16.1 points per game in fantasy, which is great, and he scored 10 or more points in every single game except one last season. He's in a very high-powered offense, which is great for him, and I personally believe that Justin Herbert is going to have a huge year throwing that ball to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, of course, but I think Keenan is that number 1 guy, of course, in Los Angeles, and Herbert's going to target him a lot, giving him a lot of targets, means a lot of receptions for Keenan, and I think his touchdown totals will improve this year, meaning he's going to have a phenomenal season. But really, overall, he's just a very consistent receiver, which is why I have him here at the 9 spot. For my number 8 fantasy wide receiver this season, I have Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last season, he averaged 16.4 points per game, and for him, it's really the touchdown upside. Last year, he had 14 touchdowns, and that was with Gronk on the team, and Chris Godwin being on a full season, and Antonio Brown being on the team for part of the year. Now, Antonio Brown's gone. Chris Godwin, he's coming off an injury. Who knows how he'll be coming into the year, and Rob Gronkowski retired. All those targets and all those people Brady used to throw to are gone, leaving Mike Evans really there as the number 1 guy, of course. Not to mention, Brady is his quarterback. Evans is on the team that throws the ball the most in all of football, and he's just consistently great every single season. There's never been a season in his entire career where he hasn't finished with over 1,000 receiving yards, and now I just see those touchdown numbers. I think they're going to go even higher than last year, making his fantasy value just through the roof, therefore making him my number 8 receiver for fantasy football this year. Honestly, with Mike Evans, to me, now that I'm really thinking about it, 8 might even be too low for him. I could truly see him finishing as a top 5 receiver in fantasy football this year with his touchdown upside now that all those guys are gone. But for now, I won't get too crazy, and I'll just throw him at 8. At number 7, I have CeeDee Lamb. I'm predicting a huge year for CeeDee Lamb because he is officially the clear number 1 wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys now that Amari Cooper is gone. The Cowboys, of course, throw the ball a lot and are a very high-powered offense. They had the most points scored in the NFL last season, and now CeeDee is the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver for that team. Dak Prescott's going to be targeting him early and often in every single game, and I think CeeDee's going to take full advantage of this opportunity and just be phenomenal this season for fantasy football. At number 6, I have Deebo Samuel. Deebo last year averaged 21.2 points per game, and I know that's mainly because he also would rush the ball a lot and was basically the entire 49ers offense, but the thing is, in his contract, there's incentives for him to rush the ball, meaning I still think he will rush the ball a little bit this season. Therefore, he still is basically the Niners' entire offense going into this year. Also, with Trey Lance now as his quarterback, that could be a good QB upgrade who can actually get him the ball when he runs routes. So overall, he's still going to run the ball a bit. Trey Lance could be a great quarterback upgrade for him, meaning his production should not fall off at all. That's why I have Deebo Samuel at my number 6. Now at number 5, I have Jamar Chase. I know a lot of people have him a bit higher than this, but I think the other 4 guys are going to have better years, which is why, of course, I have Jamar just down here at 5. He averaged 17.9 points per game last season, and he's only going into his second year. He obviously has a clear connection with his quarterback, Joe Burrow, and now with the Bengals' offensive line getting even better, that just gives Jamar Chase more time to get open and the ball to get to him. So, of course, he's going to have a huge year and be a monster in fantasy football once again like he was last year. So I have him here at my number 5 spot. At number 4, I have Devonta Adams. Now, you can say Jamar is going to be better than Devonta this year, which would be fair, but I mean, Devonta Adams is the best receiver in all of football. I don't care what his situation is. He's going to produce. He's going to put up numbers. Now, I know he got the quarterback downgrade with Derek Carr now instead of Aaron Rodgers, which is why Devontae's not my wide receiver 1. If Rodgers was still Devontae's quarterback, Devonta would be my wide receiver 1 for this season. But since he's not, he drops down 3 spots and is my wide receiver 4. But I mean, he still already has chemistry with Derek Carr as they went to college together and played together there. And the Raiders throw the ball a ton. So Devonta is still going to get his targets, still going to get his receptions, and definitely still going to get his fantasy points. And once again, finish at least a top 5 receiver in fantasy football this year. I just personally have him a bit ahead of Jamar Chase at 4. At number 3, I have Stefon Diggs. Last year, he averaged 16.8 points per game. He's on a high-powered offense that passes the ball a ton. This Bills offense, we all know, is very pass-heavy. They don't run the ball very much, and Diggs is by far the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver on this team. Last year, he had a career high in end zone targets, and I could, of course, see that happening once again this year with all the targets he's going to have coming his way. He can have over 1,500 receiving yards and well over 120 receptions this season, along with 10 touchdowns. Would not be out of the possibility for Stefon Diggs. I think he's going to have a monster year and put up crazy numbers for fantasy football this season. And now at number 2, I have the wide receiver 1 from last year, Cooper Kupp. What more can I say? He was a Triple Crown winner. He's on a crazy high-powered offense. His connection with Stafford is absolutely insane. Oh yeah, not to mention he averaged 25.85 points per game last year. He's going to be phenomenal once again this season. It's just he's of course not going to be another Triple Crown winner this season because of how rare that is. So of course he's going to regress this season, but he's still going to be a top 3 fantasy receiver this season, no matter what, which is why I have him here at 2. And now at my number 1 spot, I have Justin Jefferson. Last year, he averaged 19.4 points per game, and that was on a run-favoring offense. Now with a new head coach, who was, not to mention, Cooper Kupp's offensive coordinator from last season, and he likes to pass the ball a lot more, I think Jefferson is going to really play that Cooper Kupp role and really produce and just have an all-around fantastic season and win a lot of people some fantasy football championships this year. Well, that is all I have for you today. Those are my 12 favorite receivers going into fantasy football for this season. I've been Dylan Oliver, and I will see you next time.
Bye.